IVM.
Welcome to Audio Gyan with Kedar Nimkar, a podcast that documents insightful conversations with Indian designers, artists, musicians, writers, thinkers, and creatives of all types. Catch us on iTunes or visit audiogyan.com for more Gyan sessions. Here's your host, Kedar Nimkar.
Today I have Professor Dhimant Panchal with us on Audio Gyan. He graduated from NID Ahmedabad in 1980. With career spanning around 4 decades, Dhimant Sir has worked in all possible fields of design, from industrial design, product design, exhibition to education. Professor Dhimant Panchal is the key driving force at Maharashtra Institute of Technology, Institute of Design, Pune. And today we are here to know what it takes to bring design into the living room conversations and his thoughts and ideas about education, design education in general. So thank you, Dhimant Sir, for giving us your time. And it's a real honor to have you on Audio Gyan.
I'm feeling honored as well. Thank you, Kedar, for calling me on this platform. And I must, congratulate you on the kind of intent with which you are doing these interviews. And I'm sure, whatever the content that you're generating will benefit the generations to come. So I congratulate you again for your Audio Gyan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Even I look forward to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
So, sir, I wanted to start off by first, if you can paint us a picture of like design education in India, and to paint that, if you can refer to other disciplines, how deeply they are penetrated into the market as opposed to design, how adolescent or how nascent is it, or how deep-rooted is it, whatever your general observations, because you've been in the education space for quite some time. So.
Sure. See, Kedar, the way I would look at it is, I think if you look at the stricter sense of design that we know today, say, for example, verticals of industrial design and communication design and fashion design and all of that. Yeah, I mean, it may be as young as probably started in early 50s and 60s. But if you expand the boundaries of what we call design, include, say, arts and visual arts and fine art and, even architecture and other things, it dates back even much earlier. I mean, in India, if you look at JJ School of Art, which actually got its, first degree in architecture, which started in as early as 1952. So, and of course, I'm not talking about medicine and other things, which has much earlier history. Like the first medicine school started in Calcutta. So, in terms of formal design, yes, it is very nascent. But let's not forget the whole craft history this country has. I mean, we very conveniently forget that extremely potent and very important aspect of design, which is craft. So, if you now look at from that perspective, it dates back. Correct. As many years as you can imagine.
But it was mainly either Guru Shishya, or then occupationally it formed in a lineage. Like
correct.
The father used to teach the son, and
correct.
The son used to teach the...
Correct.
Yeah, so but formally design...
It was interesting. There is a concept called Hunar Shala, by the way.
Okay.
That Hunar Shala that you will actually find in even smaller cities and towns, where people actually could go and enroll themselves to learn a particular talent or a particular skill. In fact, if you ever travel from Chennai to, which is that place where there are these large boulders on which carvings has been
Ramgarh, Chitradurg.
No. I'll remember that name.
Okay.
On that highway, there are schools that actually teach you how to do sculpting and make gods and goddesses idols.
Oh, wow.
You can enroll yourself, and it's as old as the whole craft itself. Like in Gujarat, for example, there are Hunar Shalas that actually used to teach people how to do jewelry making. So it is not necessarily that the jeweler's son would become a jeweler, but they would also collectively, like a cluster, would start a school in which they would teach the skill of, making jewelry. So, see, these things did exist in our country. Somehow it never got formalized. But I have worked with the diamond industries, even people who polish diamonds. There were schools in which you can go as a young kid, and then start learning the hunar, as it's called. So these things did exist, but in a kind of a way that they were not more visible and and not seen as a career option. So yes, so
the word only says hunar
is skill.
Skill, yeah.
Yeah, anything which you are good at, it becomes your hunar.
Correct. So it's not really looked at as an occupation.
No,
it's but a skill.
No,
which
it's just the skill development.
Correct.
Or what we see today. I mean, you are aware that the Prime Minister has set up this NSDC and other interesting platforms where School of Skill Development Corporation, National Skill Development Corporation, and also several other skill development platforms that has been generated, which also includes Internet of Things and other things. Somehow we didn't look at it as a viable option to become a professional. It's just now recently, now people are actually talking about skill development. It already existed in our country. Somehow it never got formalized.
Interesting.
That's a very interesting connect, which many other countries were successfully able to do. Like say, for example, traditional textiles and other things. So there are countries which took it forward and, kind of took much earlier initiatives to set up schools where you can learn about textile printing, textile techniques, weaving techniques, knitting techniques. Though India was one of the largest manufacturer of textiles, generated a lot of revenues with exports. The institute which taught textile design came much later. I'm from Ahmedabad, by the way. And Ahmedabad at one point of time was declared as the Manchester of India. Manchester in UK was a textile hub. My childhood was spent in Ahmedabad, where, I mean, you hop onto any 3-4 storied building. The only thing that one saw was these, mill chimneys. I mean, there were like almost 120 plus mills in Ahmedabad.
Wow.
So when such an industry exists, nobody thought of setting up a textile institute, which will teach textile. Textile research happened, but that again happened in early 50s. So this is where I think we probably, in a way, missed the boat.
I don't know whether this is slightly a historical angle or maybe a more in-depth historian would be able to tell us. But from what I understand, what you're saying is that there has been a lot of crafts and design-centric material happening within our society on a day-to-day basis, right? Even bamboo craft and textile and
all
other
material-based
things, right?
crafts. Yeah.
So we never really wanted a special institute to go and learn that. Is that a correct articulation?
There you go. And because once you set up an institute, it would become only, it would only be kind of serving one kind of industry. But when some decisions were taken by Indian government to set up design institutes, it was more inclusive. So you're not just teaching only one kind of craft or one kind of skills. Yeah. And that, I think, was a brilliant decision, because design today is no more just verticals of skills that you possess. It's kind of hops across your own boundaries, Yeah.
And we were solving our problems anyways. So design, essentially everyone was designing.
This is a very interesting point about, do designers actually solve problems or do we resolve issues? From that perspective, I think, yes, in some cases we do solve problems. Yeah. But maybe in the bargain, we create set of other problems. Now, if I take this, argument a little forward, say, for example, when a hardcore aircraft engine developers or, jet propulsion experts, actually, in a way, in true sense of the word, solve problems.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they don't solve the problem, I mean, the life of 300 people is at stake.
Mm.
But when I'm solving on, in-flight experiences of passengers, I'm actually not solving a problem that can be life and death.
Mm.
Okay? So see, what I'm trying to say is there are several critical issues about the problem itself that you need to look at. So if I see a problem as one long tube, the top of the tube probably is a problem that is less critical to solve.
Mm.
And the depth of the tube probably has the most critical problems that needs to be solved.
Mm.
Design may contribute to solve the problem.
Mm.
So we are not the only ones who are problem solvers in that sense of the word.
Mm.
I think everyone and every profession that is involved in creating either a thought process or a message or a product or a product system or a paradigm shifts in technology all solve problems with varying degrees of criticality.
Mm. Mm.
A top being probably the least critical. Maybe it's just about having some fun. But it is a problem that needs to be solved.
Mm.
I mean, if I design a good-looking car, amazing-looking car, but every morning I have to spend 15 minutes to start.
Mm.
Now, which is a critical problem now? Is the appearance and the aesthetics, or probably
It's multi-layered, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a combination of all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a philosophical discussion which I had with my friend earlier, and I don't know whether it fits in nicely, but it's a very nice articulation. Like, I guess Ramakrishna Paramahans once said that if there's a still water and you throw a stone, there are ripples created. So it's very inevitable that if there's a up, then there's a equal down, right? So you create something which is hopefully going to solve a problem, but there will be a trade-off, that there will be a downside to it somewhere or the other, right?
Kedar, I couldn't agree with you more. The kind of complexity that we live today, to look at a problem that you solve without creating any other side effect, so to speak, is ideal. I mean, I think everybody would like to solve a problem that doesn't trigger another set of minor problems. Yeah. I mean, I remember when, some interesting technology came in, everybody went gaga over it. And today, if you ask the so-called the millennials, they don't even know about that technology.
Mm.
Yeah, and today everybody's talking about IoT. I'm very sure 20 years from now, or maybe even 5 years from now, it probably would be saying, what is it? I mean, it probably would sound very, very old.
Mm.
So yes, I think there are amazing parallels that you can draw between solving a problem and creating a problem.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So in one of your articles online, you mentioned design education makes students become responsible citizens. So if you can elaborate more on that, what did you mean? What was the context? And
yeah, sure. See, designers by their nature of work, the kind of design problems that we're trying to solve, I think we need to understand various aspects of users, markets, the economics therein, social patterns, and many other things get attached to design problem solving. The fact that design integrates itself with many other established professions, just to name a few, and this is not the whole list: medical and medical science, medical and medicine sciences, engineering, social sciences, technology, visual arts, performing arts, etc. So designers do tend to develop a better understanding of the environment that we live in, users live in, correct? The environment in general. And if you're not responsive to that environment, you may not be able to justify your design intent and the solution which is meant for that environment. So designers do tend to kind of borrow a lot of things from everywhere.
Through observations. Yeah.
Through very, very, very conscious interactions, sometimes, doing what we call user research, market research, competition scenario research. All this gives you a certain sense of clarity about what is this world that you're trying to solve a problem for. Now, the moment I have these triggers coming in or these checkpoints coming in, you automatically would become more responsive. So say, for example, I'm sure if somebody is solving a problem of, how to make a car extremely safe. Now, when I say extremely safe, now when you talk about safety in cars, extremely needs to be defined. I mean, when we say extremely safe, I mean, are we saying that even if I'm traveling at 250 kmph, and if I ram into a vertical metal wall, I should be safe? Correct? Now, from that perspective, I know I can make a car, but then it'll be very expensive, very heavy, difficult to maintain, and so on and so forth. So this entire outlook towards understanding what is happening around me makes me more responsible. In that sense.
Or if I can say that knowing the constraints which you're working in, does that also make more responsive?
That is, of course, yes. But then, you see, the other point that I want to kind of add is, if you're not responsive to the environment, you may not be able to justify, as I said earlier, your design intent. Okay? In today's context, a designer has to be technologically and socially very sensitive. Yeah? To be able to offer solutions that work without any major negative effects or difficulties. So you see, designer's role is more of an integrator, of all disciplines put together. That's why typically design doesn't have a very well-defined textual
Boundary.
books, and of course boundaries. The area within which you can, it confines you to only work on certain areas. I mean, say for example, if you're trying to solve a problem of old age homes, or you've been asked to design an old age home, you just don't reduce it to architecture and nice looking rooms in which old people can live. I think the first response to designer, whoever is designing that, is saying, why do people ask their old parents to go away from their own homes? Now, this, I mean, just a small example. This is what I meant by makes you more responsible. The moment you are designing something like this, you automatically would tend to relate within your own world. Am I being fair or whatever to my own parents,
Correct.
So
There's
this
more psychological part to it also.
It's back and forth. When I solve a problem, I actually empathize with that problem. So this back and forth makes us more and more responsible, is what I really meant. You see, the other one is, without being responsible, you will probably, this is an assumption, you'll probably generate a new design solution or an idea which in the long run may not really work. Meaning you've just solved a problem here and now, and that's about it, and you got paid for it. But a solution that's more long-lasting.
You have to see it through.
Yes, ideal solution. Okay, so this is what, we in a way...
Or should I put it this way, that when you are trying to solve a problem, because of the given constraints, it will resonate with my profession. We build MVPs, right? Minimum viable
product, yeah.
And then you go deeper into solving and then refining the product as you go along. So it's not just one attempt you make and the problem is solved, right? You keep going deeper and deeper into the problem statement and trying to explore or discover new facets as to how we can make life simple.
Now, I'll go back to the analogy that I gave you, was that pipe. So you keep going deeper into that pipe of problem. And when you hit the bottom, that's where you actually look at the criticality that you need to solve. The journey, in my opinion, is very essential. That's why even in my lot of transactions with my client, my students, the people that I work with, I always say that how critical is this problem to be solved? Is it just for more sales? Do you want me to do something, or is it something else? So, I mean, to use a slightly more cliched term, am I designing it for market, or am I designing it actually for the user? So this is what I meant by being responsible. Because designers solve all kinds of problems, and I'm sure people who you have interviewed earlier must have designed, for markets, only for sales, only to increase the profits. And also some projects they've done which actually touches people.
Correct.
In the true sense of the word. And you're actually talking to a man or a person or a user, and not just for sales and, those 45-degree sales charts that we normally see. So that makes us little more sensitive, little more responsible.
Yeah, I remember one interview with Gaur Racer from IDC, and he works in the field of ergonomics. So he was trying to he has been in that profession to improve lives of brick workers who squat and work towards that, right? So that solution is completely for the user. There's obviously there would be some sort of a profit angle to it, but it's purely solving a particular problem. But then how deep? Because if you go deeper and deeper, eventually, I don't know, I'm sounding a bit loud, but you'll reach Buddha level, right? I mean, then this birth is the only problem then.
I agree. Now, just to expand on the term, the level of reaching the Buddha, I think that self-awareness is what is very important in design. Yeah. I wouldn't look at it as if that I'm going away from this Maya. Okay? Just to rewind myself, to go back to what you were saying, I have been very passionate about design for social and special needs. Okay? And this is a course that I offer at MIT Institute of Design. Students actually take up challenges which are for people like, let's say, you talked about people who work at construction sites, people who work at road constructions, and people who are old age, design for the old age people, and geriatric application, science of old age. People who have met with accidents, who've lost their limbs, and now some of these problems are that depth of the pipe that I was talking about. So you're not doing something just to increase your sales. It's a different kind of a mind that you require to design a solution for those things, rather than, designing a Me Too product or another good-looking product and increase my sales for a company. So we are very conscious that, we must think through all kinds of problems that may come by your way in your design career. I have done a lot of work from 1981 to 1986 for Design for Health, wherein we worked with people who were ataxic, people who were autistic, people who had learning difficulty, people who had a disability of a certain kind, both physical, mental, people with visual impairment. For 6 long years, I mean, this is the only thing that I designed. So it is interesting how several of these kinds of design challenges that you've dealt with, I'm sure you become a slightly different individual. Yeah. I mean, that was the premise in which I was actually talking about being responsive and responsible. Yeah.
Beautiful. The next question which I want to ask you is so I keep swinging between this general classical school of learning where you have a guru, you have there's a shishya and you learn. And then there is the new age people who are learning through different various channels, self-taught designers. I don't want to discriminate them, but I wanted to just genuinely understand that what difference does it make if you have a formal education as opposed to, or let me put it this way, I'll divide into two parts. One is, can you really learn from YouTube?
All right. Oh, that's
Yeah.
I think, of course, yes. I mean, there is no question about this. Of course, you can learn from YouTube. And you may also not learn from YouTube. Now, let me just go, explain this. If it is about skills, okay, where I have a seed in me, let's say there is a dancer sitting inside me, yeah, and I like dancing, maybe closed doors, and I like dancing, or I like singing, or I like painting, or whatever, yeah. My core profession may be something else. Okay. I know, probably you would also know, if you watch any of these television serials on dance and singing and talent, and like India's Got Talent. Yeah, I've noticed so many participants when the judges ask them the question and saying, "Where did you learn this?" And the guy pops and goes and says, "YouTube, sir." And I'm not surprised. I mean, so yes, there are tutorials that people have put together on, such online content, and you can, of course, learn from it. The only thing that I see very positive about this is that, you get it whenever you want it.
On demand.
Yes, I mean, it is right there. I can play it back and forth, learn that step if I'm learning hip hop or, I don't know, the other kinds of dance forms. So which I probably may not be all that flexible to do when I'm actually attending, a proper teacher
Classroom
and
session.
guru who comes to teach, and So yes, I think it is here to stay. I don't think we can just turn our back and say, "Oh, come on, no, that's not okay." It is, of course, okay, and people do learn so many things. We get so many students, who learn certain skills by just online content, YouTube and others as well.
No, but if I may refine it and say, can design be learned on YouTube?
The answer is yes. The only problem is that you need to understand design probably with little more inclusive learning environment. The very act of design needs some level of criticism, some level of feedback, which probably online may not be all that easy. See, when you enroll yourself in a design school, you're not just learning from a faculty, you're also learning from 200 others who are around you, and few other 100 who are senior to you. And I'm very sure students learn as much from their peers and their colleagues in form of discussions, in form of critiques, in form of maybe heated debates and arguments, and that is something that you probably miss out when you're learning online. So therefore, and design being a profession where you're not just talking about a skill development, it's also cognitive development. It is also social development that you are, that you're experiencing. You kind of going through that change inside you as a young design learner. Therefore, I think a setup of a design school or a design institute or some sort of other design group of people sitting together and learning and teaching design.
And how critical is this in terms of weightage? I mean, there is skill part which you learn on your own, probably on YouTube as well.
Yes.
But there are these interpersonal skills which you live and learn and feel, experience when you're around with people. So in terms of weightage, because that could be a deciding factor as well, right?
In my opinion, very, very important. Very important. The reason being is that if you again look at design and not really talking about a particular specialization of design. So roughly there are skill sets that you must have and that you must excel. So they could be representation skills, drawing skills, ideational skills, all of that. To some extent, this can be learned online. But the cognitive skills, is something that I think the best you learn is when you are amongst people. When you see others work, you see how others have tried to solve the same problem very differently than what you have done. I think that cognitive give and take is something that can only happen when you're offline. And the third part is, to be able to find your own location. I mean, where are you among so many minds that you're co-learning with?
Correct.
I'm not saying comparison. I'm saying your own abilities to look at and define the very problem. I mean, how do I define my problem? Will lead me to a set of another solution. If I define it differently, it will probably lead me to another solution. So that, I think, best happens when you are amongst people.
Interesting.
That's why this whole new method of co-creating, co-learning has been now bouncing back, and then, online is taking probably a backseat, So, yes, YouTube, yes, as I said, and probably no when we are talking about other levels of learning.
Correct. And to add to that same question, which was like, I want a very, non-judgmental, obviously, which will happen anyways, but a pure observation with respect to like a self-taught designer versus academically trained designer. And this is my personal quest as well, because I am a self-taught designer, and I feel sometimes that there are these traditional things like color theory or those kind of like nuances, right? Which I'm not like academically trained to understand, but over a period of time I've gained experience and I understand some bits of it. So how, since you have worked with different people as well, what are your observations with it?
And Kedar, I promise to be non-judgmental. Okay. So, no, you see, let's go a little deeper into this idea of what is self-taught. Okay. Even if I'm in an institute, enrolled as a regular student, there are many things that I learn on my own. So I don't think this is so critical as a question. There are some people who would go beyond what is being taught to them. See, formal education in any field, it will take you only to a certain level. The rest is anyway you self-learn. I mean, say for example, when I graduated from a design school in Ahmedabad, National Institute of Design, they never taught me how to start a design school, which I did in 2006. They never taught me how to set up a factory, which I did in 1996. I mean, honestly, I don't think that divide should be so critical. There are so many things that you will learn on the job. Yeah. So education institutions will provide you just that impetus. That they would provide you with that foundation. They will give you opportunities to practice some of these things as a project level. Now, say for example, most design schools around India, overseas, have project-based education. What are we doing in project-based education? You're teaching your own self. When say for example, you're wearing these over-the-ear headphones, and if you were to design over-the-ear headphones, I mean, I'm not holding your hand as a faculty and saying, Kedar, ye kar lo, wo kar lo. You are self-teaching you. It just so happens that you're self-teaching yourself in a design studio, whereas in the other case, you're doing it probably at your home, in your office, or somewhere else where you're solving a problem.
No, but then I'll refine it again. I understand where you're coming from, but then how critical that foundation level knowledge is in the current time, especially in the current time where things are changing at a rapid pace, right?
No, I will go back to again what I was saying, that whether you learn about the basic design courses, basic design skills of color psychology, color application, interaction of color, drawing, different kinds of drawings,
anatomy,
all of that put together, yeah. But when you learn that amongst others, and when you learn it only online and staying at home, I do probably feel that may make a difference. But then finally, it is still about what you have learned. Even when a student does drawing amongst 200 odd students and one guy who's doing it all by himself, I think it still is a matter of intensity and dedication with which you're doing will make the difference. So it's either ways to me, I wouldn't be too bothered about it. At the same time, if you have been through that collective learning, I think you probably would be slightly better off. But then it again is a matter of opportunity and your own hard work that one puts in.
Or your personal quest which you have.
That finally is the decider. You see, how intense are you as a learner? See, I keep saying that there is nothing interesting for somebody who is uninterested. Okay? No matter how much ever you make him or her excited about something, if you're not interested, you will actually not learn. You're not learning anything. Yeah? So, as I said, there are people who have made their own, through their own hard work, through their own intensity, have become fantastic professionals. I know a guy, whose mother was unwell, and he decided, he's a businessman, but he decided to learn homeopathy. He never went to any school. And he's practicing. After that, he enrolled himself to a school.
Just to be safe.
No, because you can't practice otherwise. No? In design, probably it is not so critical today. Unlike probably in architecture, that you can't design a building minus the degree in architecture. You can't sign on the municipal drawings. You need to be a certified architect. Yes, from that perspective, yes. But otherwise, in terms of ability to learn, I think finally the intensity is the decider.
On a funny note, I don't know how connected it is, but I had some time back I had read one funny line which says that teaching is like dieting, right? When you are teaching, you don't know whether the student is learning. When you are dieting, you don't know whether you're losing weight or not. So it all depends on actually the student.
It's a difficult thing to do, believe me. I have a very simple understanding of teaching. In fact, you're making a student learn. You actually can't teach. You can only make somebody learn. And there are different ways to make somebody learn. You share, you opine, you give a critical feedback, you create a scenario. Yeah. Now that is not necessarily teaching. It's only sharing.
Correct.
And you see, when you share as a design faculty or a design mentor, you actually in turn also become a ghost designer for the student. Because every problem that I'm giving a feedback on, I also need to understand that problem. And if I can't understand the problem, I probably will not be able to give a constructive feedback to the learner. So that way, being a design academician, I think it works amazingly because you learn constantly. I mean, I can already see the level of projects that, I started teaching from 1981 onwards, and the kind of design projects that the students do today is way different than what was being done in early 80s and 90s. So for me, that's a learning curve. I mean, I got to be blind not to see that difference. In fact, it's a paradigm shift. So a lot of students want to work with technology. They want to productize technology to create amazing products. Yeah. Whereas if I'm not with them, I can't share with them then. So I also have to be on my toe.
Yeah.
That way, a lot of people think, being a faculty is an easy job. So just go, say something to the student. No, it doesn't work. And the young learners are far, far demanding.
No, in fact, in my perspective, at least, the topmost responsibility is probably parents, and the second topmost is a faculty, a teacher.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And obviously this purely like art of teaching demands a separate audio GAN session, which we'll probably later on. So, sir, last two questions.
Yes.
What are the key attributes to be found in oneself to get into the world of design? Because you're dealing with students, so I'm sure this must be a common question.
Sure.
That should I get into it? What is it that? Yes, one, there is an internal drive.
Yeah.
One, there is peer pressure.
Yeah.
But not to swayed away by those things and really understand that am I meant for this profession?
Yeah.
So what could be those key attributes or characteristics?
Okay. See, in my opinion, one of the foremost attribute or the characteristics or the key aspect of you to be able to become a designer is openness to learn. I think you probably will not become a very sensitive designer if you say, no, that's not what I want to learn. I want to learn what I'm good at. I don't want to make attempts in doing something which I'm not good at. So openness to learn, openness to absorb, openness to listen to people, openness to appreciate an opinion. Yeah, I think that in every aspect of the word openness, socially open, hear out somebody's argument, somebody's point of view. In that sense, I think, that's the most primary quality that a designer must have. And secondly, yes, of course, the sense of curiosity and a very keen sense of observation. We say that, one of the most important ability of a designer is, of course, everything that we talked about earlier. Be able to draw, be able to visualize, be able to do this, be able to do that,
those
be
are
able to
hard
give
skills.
solution. All the archetypes. Yeah. To me, one of the most important attribute of a designer is to even identify a relevant problem in the environment, in the society, that needs to be solved by using design thinking and design processes. So that is, to me, also very important key attribute. That be able to even find problem which nobody has seen it as a problem or seen it as a situation that needs to be addressed. So this is also one of the very, very important key attribute.
For this, they have, I think travel is a good option because when you travel, because you may not really see it as a problem unless you have seen a better solution, right?
Travel, keeping your sensorial self completely opened, so that you keep absorbing, become like a sponge, keep absorbing things around.
Correct.
And somewhere you begin to then synthesize, begin to relate.
Correct.
That ability to synthesize, be able to relate, be able to club some things together and create a meaningful whole. I think that's a very, very key attribute of a designer. See, so now this takes us back to what we were discussing. There are other skills that you can learn online. Some of these things you need to be with people around you.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, so that is the model that I probably would suggest. There's another thing which I think is very important, linked to what I was just saying earlier, is a very holistic approach towards everything that you do. Even if you're solving a very minuscule problem, but see it in its entirety, see it in its complete completeness. If you're designing a keychain, I'm sure that sounds very funny because today we talk about digital keys and all of that. Yeah, you just knock 3 times on your door and the door opens. And, yeah, but what about the key and its holistic sense? Now, if you're able to think this very naturally, I think design is your calling. There are youngsters that we get. I mean, people who want to learn design, they have that ability. Yeah.
I don't remember the name of the designer, but there's a very famous quote, right? When you think of a chair, don't think of a chair. Think of the room in which it is in.
Correct.
When you think of that room, don't think of that room, but which house it is in, and so on and so forth, till probably the city in which the chair is in.
So the system within which things exist today. Yeah, and I think design has entered that critical zone where you can't just afford to solve a problem. You'll have to keep the complete system in mind. Yeah. The other thing which I think, what is important for designers today is you should be able to break certain stereotypes and paradigms. I mean, when you solve a problem within the same paradigm, you're creating one more product. But the moment you shift your paradigm and then question everything around it, it's quite likely that you've created a product which is of a different league altogether.
Jump the curve.
Yeah. So you decide where you want to belong. It's like that, need hierarchy pyramid. The top of the pyramid is discoveries and inventions. The bottommost is the basic needs. You decide where you want to belong. That, I think, if you have an innate ability, then design is the calling.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll probably put these as top 5 key attributes. I'll put this on the website as like top 5 attributes of being a good designer.
But you see, now again, there are a lot of people who have these attributes who probably are not designers. So the question is, will they become a good designer if they had the opportunity to do this in their lives? The answer is yes. But with the same attributes, if he can also become a very successful businessman or a lawyer or a doctor. I know a doctor who was my thesis guide, co-guide, Dr. Tejas Nayak. He's a pediatric surgeon. And last 2 years back, I got his phone number from some friends around in Ahmedabad, and I gave him a call. And I said, Dr. Nayak, do you remember me? My name is Dhimant. You, in 1980, 79-80, you were my guide for my graduation project. So he says, of course I know you, Dhimant. And, how are you doing? This and that. So I asked him, I said, Dr. Nayak, what are you doing? He said, I've stopped practicing as pediatric surgeon many, many years ago. In fact, a decade ago. And he's a full-time painter.
Wow.
He's a full-time artist who does his exhibitions in Mumbai, in Ahmedabad. He commissions jobs. He says, I've forgotten in the sense I don't relate with that world anymore. And it was so lovely. He's saying that, today it doesn't bother me as to how much money do I get out of selling a painting, because he's gone that full cycle.
Correct.
The Buddha phase.
Correct.
So this, I think, is very important attribute. Keep rediscovering yourself. And if that happens, you will also probably be able to make things which people would love to use. Enduring experiences in that sense.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So Dhimant Sir, I want to just conclude with one last question. And this is again given your education.
Okay. Just before you proceed, Kedar, just want to conclude with one last point about attributes. There's one attribute which I think is also very important, is ability to comprehend complex layers of problem. Because problem is not just one entity, the problem has layers in it. Okay. So if you are able to understand that complexity of the problem itself, I think it's an important attribute that you must have. Yeah.
Wow, that's nicely put.
Yeah.
Sir, I would like to conclude with one last question. Like, what's your long-term vision about design education in India? And this could be, it's very tough to, in the current time at least, to visualize or envision 50 years out. But if we can just,
okay,
share your vision.
Sure. My gut feeling is maybe I'm not fully experienced enough to say this, but I do see that these traditional verticals of design, product design and graphic design and exhibition design, furniture design, interior design, whatever, is probably going to break down. These walls will disappear for sure. That is something which I'm very confident about. Because technology is becoming a great and a grand leveler. I mean, there are so many things which are just knocking the door around the corner, peeping in. AI is being questioned, people are feeling threatened, So yes, I think, today product design is just no more a hard product which some technology inside and some wires going in and coming out and few switches that you press. From that perspective, design is going to expand. For instance, I mean, there are so many of our graduates who are working in digital space, working with insurance companies, and they actually go through the same design process, which a typical product designers would go through. And at the end, they're also calling their solution as product. It's a soft product, but nonetheless, it's a product. It is already started. I mean, we already are in touch with few industries, and they're coming back to us and saying, well, we are not hard product guys, we are soft product guys. So do you have people who can actually understand us? UX is another great leveler. Yeah. So I do see that it eventually probably would break down, but your core design skills probably would remain the same. Your ability to look at things in entirety and everything that we just talked about earlier, that can't go. It's like mathematics, right? I mean, no matter how experimental the mathematics as a science or as a fundamental science, 1 + 1 will probably remain 2. So from that perspective, yes, your cognitive qualities will remain more or less the same. You're finally solving a problem in some way or the other.
But so is it safe to say that this is what I am reading from what you're saying, that in the future designers will become generalist as opposed to specialist?
In fact, Professor Kumar Vyas, who was my teacher and my guru, always said that our specialization is because we are generalist. Yes, that's the way I also do see it. Because future challenges will probably be also wanting us to look at many other aspects which today we don't look at. Maybe we are not even prepared for it. One of the example is, everybody talks about India having the largest population of young people in the country. But Kedar, nobody talks about what will happen when this 500 million people will grow up to be the age of 55, 60. The number of hospitals that you would need, the number of beds that you would need. Nobody's even talking about it and being prepared for it from now onwards. Just as example, just to tell you that future problems will be of a very different kind. So you can't just say, okay, I will solve only a problem which relates to product design, मुझे बता दो कि hospital bed कैसे करना है. But then hospital bed in 2040 will probably not look like the bed of today. It can't. That I think is what we need to also as design educators and design thinkers need to understand.
Beautiful.
It's complicated, it's scary, but for example, there are some countries who've taken a call, if I'm not mistaken, it was Finland, that students will no more write. They'll only type.
That's scary also.
Correct. But
motor skills and all, like, very
correct,
primary.
But then the whole question is again what we were discussing. What's the future of design? I mean, for example, I don't know, how much do you actually write today?
Yeah.
Physically. Exactly.
Only in banks if I don't have a PAN card.
And that probably only for your signature. You write your signature, that's about it, majorly. Yeah, it's already started with people like me who's 63 years old. So why do I need to, the kid who is right now, the child who is right now 4 years old, why should I teach him how to write?
In fact, it's going further. You have to speak and not even type.
Correct.
So it's very difficult to predict.
So what I'm saying is technology would be a major influencer for all design disciplines to revisit their own fields of design, their own specializations of design. The needs are going to change, and so will the approach to design. There are, all design institutes are looking at this. It's not that we are the only ones who are doing it. Yeah, there are a lot of faculty members who are also raising these concerns in design conferences, and but whatever it is, it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah,
that I'm very sure.
Even I am, because of the optimistic view which I have.
Yes.
Okay, I think this is a good note to end this. Obviously, there's plenty of things to be spoken about, and I wish I can do another podcast where a few like-minded minds like you discussing design, education, and other aspects of it. So, thank you.
Kedar, before we conclude, this was something which I wanted to suggest. That could we actually have a kind of a roundtable discussion on topics that probably not directly related to design, but still has some bearing over design, design practice, design education, ethics of design.
Yeah.
Something which is much softer, but probably also more critical. I would be happy to organize, can offer you my own infrastructure if in case you want it. We can even do a video recording, whatever. So just for you to mull over and think.
Sure. I'll definitely want to do that. But right now to just conclude this episode. Thank you, sir, for really coming all the way till the studio and giving your time. And it was really wonderful talking to you. A lot of things to ponder upon, a lot of food for thought here. And definitely it helps budding designers and people like me also to reevaluate or introspect about where we are heading as designers.
Thank you so much, Kedar, for even inviting me here. And, I think more views coming in, more people sharing their experiences definitely would create a very amazing knowledge of what design and the kind of design philosophy people follow in India. See, very often I think most people think that design comes from the other countries to India. Which I don't think is entirely true. Maybe in few cases, yes, but design has a very different meaning, a different ethos when it comes to Indian design. So thank you very much for inviting me.
It was
and
my pleasure.
hope to engage with you once again.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's it.
And that's it from today's Gyan session. Catch us on iTunes, Saavn, Stitcher, or any podcasting app you use. Do rate us on iTunes and follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Stay tuned for more Gyan on audiogyan.com. Till then, bye.
Hello! It's been a great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On This Round is on Me, Gauri is joined by Shweta Nanda. They talk about the financial independence and how it is to be a woman entrepreneur. On Anish Thing, Anish welcomes ultra-marathon runner Shivani Gharat. Shivani shares her journey of how she ran her first marathon, the mindset of a runner, and what it actually takes to run a full marathon. On Cock and Bull, Cyrus, Naveen, Akash and Shreyas talk about the Korean band BTS serving in the military and its repercussions. On Think Fast, Varun and Suchita discuss Wing Greens and their latest acquisitions and about the Indian sexual wellness market. And on Shunya One, Sheila Datya is joined by Dinika Bhatia, CEO and founder of Nuttigritties. They talk about coming from a business family and Dinika's journey in creating healthy and guilt-free snacking. Once again, don't forget to visit our merch store on ivmpodcast.com. We have some exciting new merch out there for you. Also, do follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. And do remember to spread the word about these shows and any other shows you might be listening to. Appreciate them, rate them and review them wherever you are listening to them. You can also check out all our other shows on youtube.com/IVM Podcasts. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week. Volvo XC40 Recharge, Bumble, Heads Up for Tails, Kotak Privy League Program and HDFC Mutual Fund. Thanks guys, without you this would not be possible.
Do you often find yourself surrounded by conversations about Web3, blockchain, NFTs, DAOs? What are these terms and how do they affect our future on the internet? So many questions, but don't worry, we've got answers to all your questions. Hi, I'm Eklavya Bhattacharya, and on our show Future Proofing, we try to decode the impact of these future technologies on various industries with experts and tech enthusiasts. Tune into new episodes coming out every Thursday on the IVM Podcast app and the website, or wherever you get your podcasts from.